Hello dear students, I am Dr Mangala, Assistant Professor in English. In this video, I am going to talk about the topic, The Adventure of the Three Students, which is a short story prescribed for second semester BSc, Bangalore North University. At the outset, I am going to tell you about the contents that I am going to describe in this video. First, let us see recapitulation of your previous knowledge. After that, introduction to lesson. Then an overview about the author and recap. Okay. Now, let me test your previous knowledge. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Try to answer those. Is literature reflection of life? Yes. It is definitely a reflection of life. Literature reflects life. Okay, so it reflects the ideas, genuine ideas, original ideas and thoughts of the author, and the literature of any nation that reflects sincere ideas, sincere thoughts of the authors, and so it is mirror of life. Okay, which reflects writers' thoughts about life and about real situation around. Next question, are you familiar with detective fiction? Of course, you must have read a few detective fictions, detective stories, okay? And if yes, what are the features or characteristics of those detective stories? Yes, there are salient features or common features, common characters of a detective story. Okay, features of detective stories are there would be a perfect crime, okay, crime or robbery, theft or anything, tampering with or anything. Okay, that kind of problems will be there, and one accused suspect would be there, and circumstantial evidences pointing to that suspect person, and dull-witted policeman will be there definitely. Okay, dim-witted, dull-witted policeman, and power of observation and supreme super mind of the detective will be there in any kind of detective stories commonly. Okay, and especially at the end, startling end, unexpected twist, unexpected denouement would be there. Okay, so these are the features of detective stories, and you keep all these features in your mind, students, because in this text, in this short story, The Adventure of the Three Students, you are going to see almost similar features and characteristics. Next question, how are the culprits or the criminals portrayed in the detective fiction? Culprits and the criminals. Normally, eyes would be red, and suspect and bad records, unpleasant records will be there in the past. Okay, and very suspicious character, very arrogant, aggressive character. Okay. Like that, personality physics will be very startling, intimidating. Such kind of characters will be there commonly to the culprit, to the accused. And next question, how are the detectives portrayed in the detective fiction? Detectives, spies. Okay, so detectives will be normally under those characters will be under the influence of Western civilization. Okay, they will be smoking the pipe, and black attire, long coat, long gown or long coat would be there, and robe like thing, not gown in the sense, robe like black dark robe or long coat. Okay, and sharp nose, aquiline nose, and cap, very sharp eyes, very intriguing face. Okay, very what to say, curious, sharp eyes, very serious face. All those things. Okay, these are the characteristics of, and lean personality, very tall physique. Okay, like that. These are the common characteristics of a detective. and his silhouette will be seen in it will be disclosed in the beginning of the story, especially if you see movies. Okay, silhouette figure, black dark figure will be uh, presented at the very beginning of the story. Very curious, intriguing character. Okay, attractive personality, like that. Okay, these are the features of the detective. Have you heard of the character Sherlock Holmes in your previous classes or previously? You must have, many of you must have heard of Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is one of the fictitious, very popular and marvelous fictitious characters created by the author. Okay, and majority of the detectives, spies be under his influence, under this character's influence. Sherlock Holmes, you must have heard of it. And our stories of detective, super detective mind is Sherlock Holmes. Okay, the adventure of the story, adventure of the three students, has an English detective called Sherlock Holmes. Okay, who created this character, and which year this character came into existence. Okay, and how it influenced the next detective fiction, detective literature. Let us see that in our next videos. Okay, my next question is, who is the creator of Sherlock Holmes? Any idea of the creator of Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes character is a fictitious character. Okay, it is not a real character. It is a fictitious character. He is a detective, very popular, very marvelous, wonderful detective. And who created it? Of course, the author of the adventure of the story. Who is the author of the adventure of this? Who is the author of the adventure of three students? Um, Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is the creator of Sherlock Holmes, the famous English detective. What do you mean being in the right path? Being in the right path. Okay, following the righteousness, being honest. As a student, being honest is very important, especially during the examination. Okay, your honesty, your sincerity is to be highlighted. Okay, it has to be admired, it has to be appreciated. Okay, so being in the right path, that is very important for any student. Okay, this point is going to be highlighted in the story, the adventure of the three students. Okay, dear students, with these points in your mind, let us start our uh, session. Okay, so now let us see introduction to lesson. We have the topic in front of us is, what is the topic? The adventure of the three students. Okay, the adventure of the three students is written by Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. Okay, now let us see introduction to the lesson, the adventure of the three students. I've already told you, you must have got the hints already, that it is a detective fiction. It is a detective story. If it is a detective story, what do you mean by detective fiction? What is detective story? Let us see the definition of detective fiction. Okay, detective fiction is a subgenre of crime fiction and mystery fiction in which a detective, either professional, amateur, or retired, investigates a crime, often murder. The detective genre began around the mid 19th century and has remained extremely popular, particularly in novels. Okay, detective fiction students, remember, detective fiction is a subgenre of crime fiction. Okay, it is a subgenre, subdivision of crime fiction or mystery fiction. Detective fiction is the subdivision of crime fiction, and where a detective, either professional, amateur, or retired, investigates a crime, very often murder. Okay, so this detective fiction came into existence, it became popular around the mid 19th century and has remained extremely popular, particularly in novels. Okay, in fiction, in novels. Some of the most famous heroes of detective fiction include, now I am going to list out a few famous detective characters of the detective fiction, which are C. August Dupin, Sherlock Holmes, of course, and Hercule Poirot. Hercule Poirot is the detective character uh, created by Agatha Christie. You must have heard of Agatha Christie, the Queen of Crime. She is known as Queen of Crime. So she created a very famous detective character called Hercule Poirot. And juvenile stories featuring the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, and the Boxcar Children have also remained in print for several decades. Okay, so these are the characters, detective characters that are popular in detective fiction. And our story, our short story, The Adventure of the Three Students, is a case of cheating in the examination. I've already given you a hint, students. Honesty, righteousness is to be admired. Okay, so it has to be followed, it has to be imitated, it has to be followed, right? And so it is regarding, this lesson is regarding cheating in the examination. Okay, and who cheats in the examination, who is the cheater? Let us see when we go to the lesson. And next point, students' righteousness in being honest to tackle the examination. How students' righteousness, how students' sincerity matters more in tackling the examination, how it has to be admired. Okay, so that is highlighted, that is focused in the story. Tutors' anxiety, restlessness in dilemma between disclosing the failure in conducting the exams and allowing the culprit to enjoy the benefits of the scholarship. Okay, the tutor, the lecturer, right? Um, the lecturer's anxiety, right? If the students, if he thinks that any student is going to be dishonest in tackling the examination, he is going to cheat. Okay, how um, anxious he feels, the tutor. Okay, that anxiety is portrayed here, and his dilemma between disclosing the failure in conducting the examination or and or allowing the culprit to enjoy the benefits of the examination. Okay, so which are the benefits here in this short story? The scholarship. Okay, Fortescue scholarship would be given for the meritorious student of the examination. So that is why he falls in dilemma whether to allow the culprit to enjoy the scholarship or to accept the failure in conducting the examination. This kind of dilemma will be there, anxiety will be there of the tutor in the short story. So you will see this. And now, so that is about the introduction of the lesson, students. Now let us go to see the author. Okay, who is the author of the story, The Adventure of the Three Students? The author, of course, is Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. Okay, so where is he from? Who is he? What are the specialities of him? And what kind of stories he has written? All that let us see in an overview about the author. Okay, so Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. He is born on 22nd May 1859. Okay, and he passed away, died on 7th July 1930. Okay, which is his birthplace? Of course, Scotland. Okay, he is a Scottish writer, right? And he is born in Scotland. His father is an English and his mother is an Irish. Okay, England, Ireland, Scotland, some parts of Ireland and Scotland and Wales. All these are combined to be known as United Kingdom. You know that. Okay, he is a Scottish writer. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a Scottish writer. Remember it. And he created the great character, fictitious great detective character called Sherlock Holmes. Okay, Sherlock Holmes. And when was Sherlock Holmes created by Arthur Conan Doyle? when he started writing A Study in Scarlet. Okay, it is a novel. He began this novel called A Study in Scarlet. So to his study in Scarlet, he uh, created the character, detective character Sherlock Holmes. And this Study in Scarlet, which is a novel, which is also the first of four novels written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and it was 56 56th short stories about Holmes and Dr. Watson. Along with Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson, another character, is also created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes are so closely associated. Who is this Dr. Watson? Dr. Watson is a friend and fellow lodger, a very close friend of Sherlock Holmes. Both of them stay together in a lodging in London. Okay, so Dr. Watson is physician. He is a doctor. Physician is a doctor. He is a doctor, practicing doctor, and Sherlock Holmes, of course, is a detective. Both of them stay together in one house in a lodging in London. Okay, so these two characters, fictitious characters created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle for his novel A Study in Scarlet. Okay, and Sherlock Holmes stories are the milestones in the field of crime fiction. Sherlock Holmes character Sherlock Holmes stories are the milestones. They are what to say? They are inevitable, right? Sherlock Holmes character is inevitable, and it is milestone, right? It can never be forgotten. It will be there forever. Okay, so Sherlock Holmes stories are the milestones in crime fiction. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a prolific writer. He is a prolific writer. Sorry, students. He is a prolific writer. His works include fantasy, science fiction about Professor Challenger, especially, and humorous stories about Napoleonic soldier Brigadier Gerard. Okay, and he also wrote plays, romances, plays, Plays, plays means dramas, romances, romantic stories, poetry, non-fiction, and historical novels. Okay, so different genres he tried, variety of genres he tried. Sir Arthur Conan, he's a prolific writer. He was born in Scotland. I have already told you, especially which city? Edinburgh, in Scotland. Okay, he was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. Later, he came to England to do his schooling. Okay, to join to the school, he came to England, and he wrote more than 240 kinds of fiction. Imagine, students, how wonderful it is. 240 kinds of fiction of all genres. Genres means divisions of literature: poetry, fiction, prose, etc., short story, etc. Different 240 kinds of genres he has tried writing. You imagine, definitely he is a prolific writer, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Okay, what all he tried? History, fantasy, adventure, science fiction, crime, drama, war, more than 1200 other works as essays, pamphlets, articles, letters to the press, poems. His letters are also published. Poems, interviews are also published, and plays, dramas. Okay, so this is about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Okay, so now, dear students, let us recap. This is about the introduction to the lesson, introduction to the author. Okay, so now let us recap what we have done in this PPT. We talked about detective fiction. which is a subgenre of crime fiction and mystery fiction, where a detective investigates a crime, more often murder. It began around mid 19th century and became popular afterwards. And a case of cheating. This lesson focuses on a case of cheating in the examination in the university, okay, in the college. And students' righteousness in being honest to tackle the examination is portrayed here. The center point is students' righteousness. And Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle is a Scottish writer. He created the character, mysterious detective character Sherlock Holmes. Okay, and for his, to which a story, which novel he created this character? A novel called A Study in Scarlet. Okay, this is his first novel out of four. And this is 51 of the, this is 56th short story about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Okay, and Arthur Conan Doyle, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a prolific writer. His works include fantasy, science fiction, and he was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. Later came to England to do his schooling, and he wrote more than 240 kinds of fiction of all genres like fantasy, humorous story, romances, war, interviews, letters, poetry, etc., etc. Okay, so now I am going to go to the other PPT. Okay, let me open the other PPT, students. Oh, right. Yeah. Right. So now, students, we have seen introduction to the author, introduction to the lesson. Let us go to the presentation of the story now. And here, contextual interpretation of the lesson, intention of the author, and recap. Okay, so these 3 points we are going to focus on now. Okay, and so remember who wrote the lesson, the short story, The Adventure of the Three Students. Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. Okay, so who is born in Scotland. Okay, and he created a fictitious character, a famous detective called Sherlock Holmes, and his friend Dr. Watson for his novel A Study in Scarlet. And the adventure of the three students is a detective story, okay, which has the theme of cheating case in the examination, and also the righteousness, sincerity, honesty of the particular student in the examination, in facing the examination, is highlighted in the story. Okay, and what are the salient features we discussed regarding the detective story? The salient features of detective stories. Salient features of detective stories are perfect crime should be there. Any kind of crime should be there. Here, what is a crime? Cheating in the examination is considered as crime here, and of course it doesn't go to police here, because it is an educational institution, and it is very sensitive issue, and it has to be solved silently, clandestinely. Okay, and then what else? Accused, suspect would be there. Here he is a student, and circumstantial evidences point towards him that he is the guilty. Clues will be there on the basis of the circumstantial evidences, and of course dull-witted policeman is not there here in this story. In the other stories by Conan Doyle, definitely policemen are there, and the power of observation, supreme mind of the detective Sherlock Holmes, of course, is there. Okay, it is portrayed in a very detailed manner, and startling, unexpected denouement is there. End. Denouement means end is there. Of course, that is there in the story. All this we saw in the previous PPT. Dear students, now let us go to contextual interpretation. That means presentation of the story. Okay, what is there in the short story? Let us see. Uh, Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. I have already told you both of them are friends. One is the famous English detective Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Watson is a physician, practicing physician in London. Okay, both of them share the same lodging. Understood? Landlady would be there. Both of them are staying together. Both of them are single. Of course, Sherlock Holmes is not married, right? Dr. Watson later he gets married, right, to a woman. Woman in the sense, one of the characters that we, one of the characters that comes in the case to Sherlock Holmes, that lady will marry Dr. Watson. Okay, and now at present both of them are sharing the same lodging. Both of them are single, and okay, and one day what happens? They are visited by a university tutor and lecturer called Mr. Hilton Soames. Okay, Mr. Hilton Soames. Hilton Soames is the university lecturer and a tutor. Okay, tutor lecturer both are similar, of St. Luke College. St. Luke College, right? St. Luke College, Luke, you remember, right? Holmes and Watson are visited by a university tutor called Mr. Hilton Soames of St. Luke. So Mr. Soames hurries Mr. Holmes to act uh, faster. Why? Because the next day is going to be the examination day. Okay, examination is due on the next day, so fast, so what to say, early it is, and previous day to the examination this mishap has happened. What is the mishap? What is the unfortunate thing that has happened previous day to the examination? I will tell you. Okay, so first day of the examination tomorrow. Why this examination is going to be conducted? Because Fortescue scholarship is going to be announced for the meritorious student of the examination who wins the examination, who scores high marks, highest mark in the examination. That person will get the scholarship, Fortescue scholarship, which is a big sum of money, right? And everybody desires to get it, of course. And what happens? What is the mishap that I'm going to tell you now? Tutor, Mr. Hilton Soames, and it is a residential college, St. Luke College, and teachers and the students are staying there in the university building only. And previous day to the examination, what happened? Mr. Hilton Soames' paper was Greek. Okay, Greek, on Greek subject. Greek is a language subject. Okay, like English, Kannada, in that way. And his subject is Greek. And okay, so especially translation, no, language papers, language question papers, in the sense translation papers, translation exercises will be there, right? So Greek to English, English to Greek translation was there. An unseen large passage was there in one sheet of the question paper. 3 sheets will be there. On one sheet, an unseen large passage is there for translation, and it has to be kept secret, of course, unseen passage, no? So only on the examination day, at that time, a student should read it. Okay, it should be kept as secret, confidential, that, right? And Greek subject it is, and it is related to translation. And papers had just arrived from the printers, and Hilton Soames was reading the papers carefully, if any mistakes are there or not. Okay, so he was reading the paper. It took for an half an hour. It took for an hour. And okay, subject is Greek. First paper consists of a large unseen passage of Greek translation. Okay, paper was kept as a secret, and it was arrived from the printers just then. And Soames was reading it so carefully upon the desk in his chamber, in his room. Okay, his task was not yet over, but it was already a time for what he had promised. Previous day he had promised to a colleague and friend that he would join him in tea. Okay, so that is why, since he has to keep up his promise, so he left the papers on the desk and he went to meet his colleague in tea. Okay, so he went to have tea with his friend in his room, right? And so he had the tea and he came back to his room. Then he discovered the unfortunate thing. What is that unfortunate thing? On his return, he found that the door to his room, though locked it was, key was there. Key was left there in the keyhole. Right? Key was still there in the keyhole. Whose key it is? He discovered that his key is there in his coat pocket. And who has the other key? Two keys. If there are two keys, who has the other key? Of course, his servant. Okay, his servant has the duplicate key and he has the original key. Only those two possibilities are there. Okay, he has not left the key there in the keyhole. His servant must have left it, right? And so he found that on his return, and he goes inside the chamber. What he finds there? He discovered that somebody has tampered with the test papers. He had left the test papers, examination papers on his desk, and someone had come in and tampered with the papers. He could see papers are rummaged. Okay, and who is this servant? Bannister. What is his name? Bannister. Bannister is Soam's servant, tutor's servant. Okay, Bannister was looking after Mr. Hilton Soames for 10 long years, and looking at his table, he came to know that someone had rummaged among the papers. Why? Because one sheet was lying on the floor. Actually, when he went, he had left all the papers neatly on the desk. When he came back, he saw one of the sheets was lying on the floor. Out of three, one sheet was lying on the floor, and one more on the side table near the window. Okay, main table, reading table, and the side table near the window, and second sheet was on the table, side table near the window, and the third paper was there as it was, how he had left on the reading table. Okay, so this is called rummaging, right? He could easily make out some intruder had come in and tampered with the paper. Okay, he had seen that confidential secret passage, right? So which was kept for translation. Immediately Bannister, who is this Bannister? Mr. Hilton Soam's servant, who has the duplicate key. Okay, so Bannister was summoned immediately, but Bannister denied everything. Okay, he denied everything. So he didn't. He said, "No, no, no. I am not the guilty. I didn't do anything." He denied everything, and he nearly fainted when he heard that some intruder has come and rummaged the paper. He nearly fainted, and he nearly fainted on hearing the news and collapsed into the chair nearby. Okay, so remember, students, he nearly fainted and collapsed into the chair. Mr. Hilton Soames, with no ways left to him, he has wasted all his wit. What to do? What to do? At last, he felt so happy that Sherlock Holmes is there in the town. Okay, he is there. He could go meet him. Definitely, he went straight away to meet the famous English detective called Sherlock Holmes. And he went to meet him. Where does he stay? Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, both of them, where are they staying? Of course, in London. Which street? Which lodge? Which house number? Okay, both of them are staying in the lodging called lodging numbered as 221 B, Baker Street. Okay, the street name is Baker Street. Baker Street, 221 B. Okay, Sherlock Holmes are so famous in detective fiction, in crime literature. So Mr. Soames straight away went to see Mr. Sherlock Holmes, and he wanted to settle the matter quietly. Why? Because it is uh, the matter of prestige of the university, of the college. It is an academic institution. Okay, so he wants to settle the matter so quietly. He doesn't want any scandal. Okay, so any scandal should not be ensured. That he is worried more. His dilemma is either the man should be discovered, the person intruder should be discovered, the culprit, or else the examination should be postponed until the fresh papers are prepared. New one more, no, examination, paper leakage and all, you must have heard. Okay, so if paper leaks, what happens? Fresh paper has to be prepared, one more examination has to be conducted. Okay, so either this or the man must be found out, and here they should avoid him from taking the examination. So any one should be done. He is in that dilemma. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson returned with the tutor, Mr. Hilton Soames, to the university buildings to observe. Okay, Sherlock Holmes is a great observer. He is famous for his supreme mind, super mind. Okay, super intelligent he is. And Holmes attempts to look through as soon as they get into the building. Mr. Holmes goes to look through the latticed window of Soames' room. Okay, it is there on the ground floor, and he attempts to see through the window into the room. He could not see. He could not reach. Reach in the sense he has to crane his neck and he has to sit on. He has to stand on tiptoe to look through the window. Okay, he is 6 feet tall. Imagine. Okay, Sherlock Holmes is 6 feet tall, very lean figure, sharp aquiline nose, and very curious, intriguing eyes. Right, lean figure, lean face, cap, pipe smoking, long dark coat, okay, etc. You imagine that. Let us see the picture, illustrated pictures I will show you on the slide later. And he could not see through the window, you remember. Examination of the carpet and the room are done by Mr. Holmes. He prepares his first presumption. Okay, first supposition, conclusive supposition. Okay, it cannot be the conclusion, supposition, conclusive supposition. First presumption is the intruder definitely entered the room. And that is why papers are rummaged. Okay, and he took the papers, carried them to the window because to read them in the brightness. Okay, and also one more strong reason is there, rational reason is there why he took the papers to the window table, because he could see if the tutor is coming across the courtyard. Okay, if he is coming through the window, he could see and he could easily escape. Okay, so that is the rational reason, rather than brightness, right? And so he could escape, and he copied that on that side table, and he tossed it down on the floor, seized the next sheet, and by that time Soames, he heard Mr. Soames' return. Footsteps could be heard by him, and that footstep caused him, unexpected return of Mr. Hilton Soames caused him to make a hurried retreat. He hurried away. Where did he go? No idea. It has to be still found out, discovered. Okay, and what are the proofs, circumstantial evidences in the situation, on the spot? What are the evidences Mr. Holmes got through his microscopic eyes? He got pyramid shaped black clay with sawdust. Pyramid shaped clay. Okay, clay, soil. Okay, clay means it's a kind of soil, no? Clay with sawdust on it, pyramid shaped dovey like mass. Okay, clay, ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ಹುಂಡೆ ಅಂತೀವಿ, and a broken tip of pencil and shreds of pencil. He must have sharpened the pencils. Imagine, student, this is 19th century. Okay, 1880s. Sherlock Holmes character was created in 1880s. Okay, 19th century. Advancement was a little bit less, not little bit, much less compared to our period, contemporary period. Okay, so he was using the pencil to copy it, no mobile phones to take the photo, right? So, and doughy clay mass like pyramid shaped clay was lying there on the floor, one evidence. Broken tip of the pencil and shreds of pencil because of sharpening. He wrote most probably so violently, hurriedly, so that he broke his pencil with lead, and that is why he sharpened it. Broken tip and the shreds are lying there on the floor, on the table, and there was a scratch on the table. Scratch how? With his keen eyes, Sherlock Holmes observes that the scratch on the table, uh, one side it is lower, the other edge is deeper. Which side it is deeper? Towards the bedroom. Bedroom is attached. I have told you already, it is a residential college. Okay, St. Luke is a residential college. Both the tutors and the students are residing there only. Right? They are living there only. So bedroom is attached to the room, the study room. Right? So towards the bedroom, bedroom is inside attached. So towards the bedroom, the scratch is going deeper. Right? So keenly Sherlock Holmes observes that. These are the circumstantial evidences. Depending on that, dear students, go to guess the culprit. Okay, so suspects, students are there, the three adventure of the three students, those three students suspects are there. I'm going to tell you now. You try guessing. Okay, so Mr. Soames didn't see anyone on the staircase. Sherlock Holmes asks Soames whether he saw any student on the staircase while coming from the tea with his colleague. Mr. Soames says, no, I didn't see anyone on the staircase. Okay, no, that means nobody went back through that way, through the staircase, because he came from the side door, not through the courtyard. Okay. Next, Bannister was summoned. Who is this Bannister? Of course, the servant of Mr. Soames, the tutor. And he was Bannister was summoned. He denied. Wait. Yeah, let me go to the next slide. So, and before they summoned Bannister, um, Sherlock Holmes observed all this in the study room, and he goes to the bedroom. Okay, the door was there inside and it leads to bedroom. So he went examining the bedroom floor, inside, carpet and all. So on observing the bedroom, what are the proofs he gets again? uh, the bed is too low to hide. Okay, no one could hide under the bed. Why? Because it is too low. British bedsteads are too low, and wardrobes, um, wardrobe also is too shallow to hide. Wardrobe is also too shallow to hide, and the only possibility which Sherlock Holmes comes to know observing all is behind the curtain. Curtain was drawn. Behind the drawn curtain, um, a few clothes were hung on the line of the peg. A small pyramid shaped black putty like stuff was also lying there in the bedroom. Okay, so that proves that the cheater had been hidden in the bedroom through that period till Soames went to meet Mr. Holmes. Okay, and which are the three? Who are these three suspects? Okay, let us see these three students. The three main suspects are Gilchrist. Remember these three students. These three students are so important. Gilchrist, an athlete. Okay, his name is Gilchrist, an athlete. He is a long jumper. Okay, very tall and good physique because he is a sports person. And one more, the second one is Daulat Ras. Daulat Ras. Okay, he is an Indian student staying in England, in London. And the third one is Miles McLaren. Miles McLaren. Miles McLaren, he is one of the brightest intellects of the university, but a wayward. He was nearly expelled over a card scandal in the first years. Okay, in the first year, he was nearly expelled from the college, from the university. Okay, these three are the three students, three suspects. First one is Gilchrist, an athlete. Second one is an Indian, Daulat Ras. And the third one is Miles McLaren, a bright student. These three are the suspects. Out of these three, who is the cheater? Keep guessing, students. Okay, and yeah. Uh, so why Bannister left the key on the door itself in the lock, right? So why didn't he take it? Bannister gave the answer for this question. He had tea tray in his hands, and he could not lock with the tea tray in his hand. He could not lock simultaneously. So he thought he would go keep the tea tray and come back later to lock it, but he forgot. He forgot to come back and lock it. So that is the reason Bannister gives. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, and Mr. Soames. Okay, all these three visited those three students' lodgings through rooms. Lodgings means rooms. Okay, so Mr. Soames' chamber is on the ground floor, and all the three students' floors are upper floors. Okay, one on each floor. Right. Let us see. Um, So all these three, Watson, Holmes, and Soames, all these three visited those three students' rooms, and the third meeting was abortive. Okay, third meeting in the sense Miles McLaren. Miles McLaren's meeting was abortive. Abortive means not successful. So Gilchrist also met these three. That means Holmes met Gilchrist. They also met Daulat Ras, but not Miles McLaren. Why? It was abortive because he didn't open the door, first of all, and in addition to it, a torrent of bad language. He abused these three, even the tutor, the detective, the doctor, all these three, he abused them with bad language. Why? Because he was so anxiously reading for the exam for the next day. He didn't want to waste his time talking to the visitors. That is why a torrent of bad language came from inside. No, I don't meet any visitors. I have to read, study for the examination. He is one of the brightest student, and all these days he was what to say, roaming around. He didn't read, so that is why he is so anxiously reading the previous day. Right? Keep it in mind, students. Keep guessing who must be the culprit. I go on giving the hints and evidences, right? And guessing conclusive propositions of Mr. the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. Holmes doesn't come to any conclusion that day. Next day is the examination. Previous day he didn't come yet to any conclusion, but mysteriously he asks about McLaren's height with Mr. Soames. Okay, so Mr. Soames gives the answer in this way. Miles McLaren, the student, he is taller than the Indian, not so tall as Gilchrist. Okay, taller than the Indian, not so tall as Gilchrist. Right? Then who is the tallest here? Gilchrist is the tallest. Okay, so keep this also in your mind, dear students. And with this, attach the situation, the fact that Sherlock Holmes, as soon as he visited the building, university building, as soon as he saw the latticed window of Mr. Soames' room, tutor's room, he went to see through the window, but he could not. He had to stand on his tiptoe. Okay, so he is 6 feet tall. Height is mentioned. Why? What may be the reason? Keep guessing. Okay, next let us see. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so that previous day, Sherlock Holmes doesn't come to any conclusion. He doesn't give any conclusion. Okay, he's forming a picture in his mind, a mind map. My mind, mental picture is getting formed, shaped in his brain. He is sharp-minded detective. Okay, so next day at 8 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Holmes, the famous detective, shows to Dr. Watson, his fellow lodger, his friend, a pyramid of black doughy clay on his palm. How come he got that? Two were there in the room, in Soam's room. One was in the bedroom, the other one was in the reading room. Which is this pyramid then? Clay pyramid. Okay, so to get that, Mr. Sherlock Holmes had to walk for 5 miles at untimely hour of 6 o'clock early morning that day. Okay, he had walked 5 miles to get that pyramid shaped clay. Where did he get it? In the long jump court. Okay, so both of them, as soon as they, of course, Sherlock Holmes has the clear picture in his mind and he takes Dr. Watson. Both of them get ready. Straight away they go to meet Mr. Soames. Why? Because on that particular day, the examination is going to be started. Still the case is not cleared. It's not yet cleared. Okay, to resolve that case, both of them are going, right? So both of them go to Mr. Soames' room. Mr. Holmes proposes a discrete resolution. He proposes a discrete, distinct resolution and sets up a small private court martial. You must have heard of court martial, students. Court martial is a court for the accused military people, military servants, military service people. Okay, so military officials, military soldiers, all military people. It is a court for them, right? And accused will get punished through that court martial. So a private small court martial is arranged in Mr. Soames' room now by Sherlock Holmes. Right, let us see. In the court martial, the verdict is going to be given, the case is going to be tried. Let us see how the case is going to be tried, who is the culprit, and who are all summoned there in this private court martial. Okay, it has to be solved quietly. It should not be publicized. Why? Because it is the dignity, prestige of an education institution, college, university, famous university. Okay, so that is why, that is the responsibility of Mr. Soames as a lecturer there. Let us see what happens. So Bannister was summoned. Of course, the servant has to be summoned, and so Mr. Holmes tells his own conclusion because Bannister still denied of his guilt. Still he is denying, no, I don't know anything. Who rummaged it? I don't know anything. He is still denying. So he is not accepting the truth. That is why Sherlock Holmes only starts to give his conclusion. He starts narrating the story, what must have happened. Okay. So he tells Bannister had collapsed. We have seen Bannister had collapsed into a chair. That too on what chair? Which chair? Two more chairs were there so nearby, so close by. Instead of collapsing in those chairs, he goes to the faraway chair and collapses there. Okay, point to be noted. Bannister had collapsed into the chair to hide an object. Why he goes to that chair? He must be hiding an object. Which object? That object definitely would have revealed the culprit who was hiding in the bedroom. Understood, students? Bannister was collapsing for longer time in a chair. Why? He must be hiding, covering some object which would have revealed the culprit who is hiding there in the bedroom. So Mr. Soames feels so shocked. What is this? Culprit was hiding when I was here in this room. I would have got hold of him if I would have gone to if I had gone to the bedroom. Right? He's so shocked. And when Soames departed to meet Mr. Holmes, Bannister had let that person out. That is true. And who is that person? Bannister has to tell now. Okay. So this is what that has occurred. yesterday. Bannister should tell the truth. Okay. So Bannister continued to deny again. He continued denying everything. So next weapon is Gilchrist. Sherlock Holmes, Mr. Holmes summons Gilchrist. Go call Gilchrist. Gilchrist was summoned. Okay, who is this Gilchrist? Gilchrist, an athlete. He is an athlete, long jumper. Okay, so Mr. Holmes, as soon as Gilchrist comes in, he accuses him of being the guilty. Okay, you are the guilty person. Why did you do it? He started accusing him. He starts accusing him. Gilchrist thought that, oh, Bannister has told everything. He has abandoned me. Then I have to accept the truth. So he decides in his mind and he asks Bannister, you told everything. Okay, so Mr. Holmes tells, no, 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 you have told everything now. Now Bannister has to narrate the story, what has happened. Look at the cleverness of Mr. Holmes, the famous detective, dear students, how clever he is, right? And Gilchrist, he's feeling guilty at the same time. I've already told you what is highlighted, what is portrayed here, the righteousness, honesty of the student. Which student? Gilchrist, of course. So the righteousness, the following, he's following the in the right path. That is focused here. Of course, he has to be proved sincere. Proved in the sense he has to become a changed man. Of course, he has done the offense, crime, but he has to change himself, atone himself. So Gilchrist is overcome. He is so overwhelmed, overcome, smitten by the guilt, by the emotions. He could not express it. Look at the picture. Okay, he is collapsing. He is overcome by the emotions. See how he is falling on the table. He covering his face. He could not express. He could not say anything. He is so overcome by his emotions. And again, Mr. Holmes starts narrating this story. What would have happened? According to Sherlock Holmes' recount, um, Gilchrist, the tallest person, a long jumper, and the corroborative evidences, circumstantial evidences, what you call, they all are pointing towards Gilchrist. The unexpected return of Mr. Soames made him to rush into the bedroom. Of course, he was hiding in the bedroom. Okay. In haste, in hurry, he left his tan gloves on the chair. Gloves, hand gloves, you know, no? So he left his hand gloves. Of course, he came inside, right? Key was there on the door, and he just looked through the window. Papers are lying on the table, Mr. Soames' table. No one is there. Okay, so on his height helped him to see through the window while walking. He was walking across, and he saw through the window. Papers are lying there. Key is there on the door. Of course, he got tempted. Let me go see. Okay, so that out of that temptation, he has gone inside, opened the door, gone inside, and he copied the first sheet. Second sheet he seized, tried to copy. By that time, Soames is coming all of a sudden by the side door. So what to do? He left the gloves, and he had kept his shoes, long jump shoes, on the table. So seizing those shoes so violently and rushed into the bedroom. While taking the shoe, there was a scratch on the table. Okay, so towards the bedroom, the scratch is deeper. It's going on deeper and deeper, right? So while he seized the shoes but forgot the gloves. Bannister was summoned, but Mr. Soames didn't observe all that. He just saw the papers rummaged, and immediately he called the Bannister. Before he went to Mr. Holmes, detective, he called the Bannister. Bannister denied everything, and he saw the gloves. As soon as he saw the gloves, he recognized that the gloves belonged to Gilchrist. So he had to cover Gilchrist guilty. He had to cover the gloves, so he collapsed. He pretended to be collapsed into the chair. Why is he covering Gilchrist? That has yet to be discovered. Okay. And the unexpected return of Mr. Soames made him rush into the bedroom. In haste, He left his tan gloves on the chair. Bannister had to cover it by sitting on it. Okay, so these are the findings discovered by the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. And what is the connection between Bannister and Gilchrist family? Bannister only should say. Depending on the circumstantial evidences, depending on the situation, Sherlock Holmes could guess what would have happened. Of course, it is true. His guessings are definitely true, no doubt about it. But what is the connection that Bannister has to say? Okay, Bannister, of course, is telling now. Bannister was working for Sir Jabez Gilchrist. Jabez Gilchrist, Gilchrist's father. Okay, Gilchrist's father's name is Jabez, Jabez, Jabez Gilchrist. And when in his heydays, Bannister was working in that house, and at that time Gilchrist was so small, and he for many years he worked there. He looked after the boy, right? And after that, later what happened? Sir Jabez went to what to say? He entered into his bad days, unpleasant days. He was ruined. That means economically he ruined. He lost all his money in turf club, race, you call it, na? Turf means race, horse race. So he lost all his money and he became a pauper, and he completely ruined he was. And after that, Bannister had to come to the university. He had to leave his work there because of the financial problem, crisis. He had to come to the university. He joined here. That connection is there. Okay, and he tried to speak to the young man as his father would have done. Okay, as soon as he saw the gloves, of course he could recognize whose gloves they were, and he saw Gilchrist in the bedroom. He called him and he talked to the young boy as his father. Okay, he took his father's place. He advised him not to cheat in the examination. Okay, so he advised him. Of course, Gilchrist followed Bannister's advice, who was almost similar to his father, Sir Jabez Gilchrist. And now, restlessly, in the night, he wrote a letter to Mr. Hilton Soames, the tutor. So he wrote a letter that he is not intending to take the examination, and he is going to abandon the university. He is going to leave the university, St. Luke College, and he is going to what to say, he's going to take up a job, a commission. He's going to take up a job in Rhodesian police, Rhodesian police, Rhodesian, Rhodesian police. Why? Because he was offered a commission. That means he was offered a job in Rhodesian police. So he's leaving the university. He's going to Rhodesian police, Rhodes. Okay, so there he is making up his future, right? So Bannister told all that, and Gilchrist also accepted it. Okay, so in this way, the court martial ended, dear students, and Mr. Soames felt so happy as a tutor, as a teacher. He felt so happy that one of his students is so honest, he is so sincere, that though he did his mistake, he is able to atone it before, in time. Okay, on time, and he was so happy on that. And Mr. Sherlock Holmes wished Gilchrist a bright future, a height of future in Rhodesian police. Okay, so there the story ends. With this, we have come to the end of the presentation of the lesson interpretation of the story, dear students. Let us recap what we have done in this video. Mr. Soames' visit, we saw, to Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the famous English detective in London on Baker Street in 221B. Okay, room number, large number. And Greek paper, why? What is the case? Greek paper of Mr. Soames was tampered with some intruder student. Tutor's dilemma we have seen. What is the dilemma? Mr. Tutor's dilemma, whether to conduct the examination or avoiding that culprit from taking the examination. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson visited the university building. Their meeting of the three students, one of course was abortive, Miles McLaren's visit, and Mr. Holmes' observation of the room we saw, and the three suspected students also observing the three suspected students also we saw, and Sherlock Holmes hard work to get the evidence, pyramid shape clay evidence, and his final conclusion we saw. Court martial scene, private court martial scene in Mr. Soam's room we saw. Disclosure of the guilt at the end, and Gilchrist's abandonment of the university exams and his job in Rhodesian police. Okay, so this is the skeleton, the clear picture of the story, the adventure of the three students. With this, we have come to the end of this video, dear students. I hope you enjoyed it, you understood everything. Thank you all for listening to me. I am going to end the meeting now.